Start at 9 o'clock in the morning and go through till 9 o'clock at night. And the reason it's like that is because we need saturation. If you're going to learn a new language, how would you do it? Would you go and spend an hour a week learning that language? Or would you go and live in the country and begin learning it through immersion? And that's really what this experience is about. It's an immersion thing. So when we come to a seminar, it's about immersing yourself in an environment or in a mindset of a champion. You know, someone who really wants to push their life forward in a powerful, positive way. And so I've started running seminars, and I'm married. I have 5 children. I have my 2 youngest children that live with me. My second youngest son, Joseph, is here tonight. That's him over there.
Hi, Joseph.
My wife and I have been happily married now for 13 years. I went through formally a divorce, and with my oldest 3 children, there was a separation. And after going through that divorce, I figured I don't know too much about marriage. I wasn't adept in relationships. I felt there's something wrong. There was some flaws in me. And so I started doing a lot of personal development work because I wanted my relationship to work to a high level. Now, to take you back a bit further, when I was 16 years old, I became the Australian karate champion because I knew all about hard work and dedication. I knew about pushing myself. I understood those principles, and yet when it came to relationships, I had no clue. And so there was a lot of work that I needed to do. And so the reason that I do today what I do is that I recognised in myself that I needed to develop a lot more than I'd currently developed. I recognised there was holes and flaws in me. And if I could get that change, if I could make a transition, then I could make my life work. I could make my relationships work. I could make my health work. I could make my career and finances work. I could have enough money and then some to spare, you know, for my wants as well as just my needs. And so that was what I decided to do. And so it's been a journey of personal development. I want to take you back on a little bit of a journey. I went to a seminar when I was 14, and that's where it all began for me. And sitting in that seminar, the instructor had a woman that he was working with do a memory technique. It was called memory pegs. And I saw them go through 20 items, list them on the board. She had her back turned. She was able to rattle off all 20 items. She'd learnt them in about 3 minutes. And I was thinking to myself, that's amazing. It's an incredible trick, great party trick. And so I thought to myself, can I do this? And so over the next few months, after attending the actual seminar, I went to a 4-day seminar, I learnt these memory techniques and I started applying them. Now remember this, that knowledge is not about information, it's about application. Knowledge is the application of information. It's only when you apply it and you practice it, and we realise that repetition is the mother of all skill, that's when you learn things. And so I went away with the tools, but it wasn't until I started practicing on my own, and there was a lot of hours that I sunk into it, getting my mind and my memory to work, to be switched on. It didn't just happen. I didn't go to one seminar and suddenly I had this superpower memory. I learnt the tools, I learnt the techniques, but then I had to go away and practice them. Now, fast forward about 6 to 12 months, and the seminar leader came back to town. My father began working with him. And he was looking for someone to do this memory technique. And my father suggested me because I'd done some work with it. He says, my son will do it for you. He threw me into the deep end. I went out in front of a crowd of people. There's more than this. It was a bigger group, probably 20 people. And I remember how nervous I was sitting there. And I went through the items, my back was turned, and I got them all except for one. And even to this day, I was 15 years old and I can still remember the one that I missed. It was twist drill. I still even remember the item. The other 19 have fled from my memory. I can't remember them. I can't recall them right now. But that one that I got wrong. Now, who has had a situation in their life where you failed? You failed really bad and you remember it. You sometimes forget those successes you have. You sometimes forget the good things, but that failure, that hits you hard. And it's often the need to avoid pain that pushes us to do better. And so from that experience, I decided that it's not going to happen again. I made sure that I pushed myself hard with my memory so that I would not forget things, so that I would have a super powerful memory. I shouldn't say not forget things, I should say super powerful memory. Your unconscious mind doesn't process negatives directly. So what that means is that when you say, I won't do something, or if you say something like, my wife and I had this conversation, she said, I've got to stop saying that, I've got to stop doing something. The word stop is not even recognised by your unconscious mind. So if you're saying I've got to stop overeating, all your unconscious mind hears is I've got to overeating. That's all it hears. It just eliminates anything negative. It eliminates it from our vocabulary, and it just hears the main words or the main structures in the sentence. That's all it hears. And so your unconscious mind doesn't process negatives directly. It thinks of everything as being just what it is, the statement. So after that experience, I decided to work on my memory more. And then when I was 19 years old, I sat down, I was in church one time, and this African-American man got up and he spoke. He spoke for 15 to 20 minutes. He did so without notes. And I was impressed by that, but the content, the scriptures, all from memory, the shares that he did. And he went on, and it wasn't just a little bit of information. He was speaking articulately, he was speaking well, he was speaking fluently, and it just seemed to roll effortlessly from his lips. And I listened to it, and it was much like a TED Talk is today. We've all heard TED Talks. These people get up without notes, and they speak dynamically. And they speak to the heart and speak to the mind. And they seem to be able to continue to go forever. And I thought to myself, what a skill. And so that got me on this journey of thinking, well, how do I develop my public speaking skills? Then I stumbled across some talk tapes by a man by the name of Christopher Howard, and he had some presentation and platform skills training. I got these tapes and just listened to them over and over again. Once again, repetition is the mother of all skill. And so I listened to the tapes over and over and over again until I got the information inside my mind, deep inside my mind. Then, with the information, I began practicing it. Practice the skills. I would learn one bit of information, one chunk. I would begin putting it into practice, begin applying it, using it wherever I could. I started teaching and public speaking. I remember the first time I stood up to give a talk without any notes. And I was using a technique called a visual stack. And a visual stack, for those of you who don't know, is simply a way to remember a talk. A talk may be, for example, a number of pictures that you have in your mind. And so you go through the first picture, then the second, then the third, all the way to the end of the talk. And so instead of having pages of information, you might have 5 to 10 pictures in your mind, and each picture speaks how many words? How many words? 1,000 words. So you get a good picture of something, you've got 1,000 words that you can disseminate or give in relation to that picture. So 5 pictures could be 5,000 words. Okay, could be. We don't want to use that many words. We want to be a bit of a wordsmith if we can and use less words to tell more information. But that gives you an idea of how that works. And so all I did was a number of pictures, and I was able to get through that talk. Now, not only did I get through the talk, people came up to me afterwards and said, wow, that was amazing. Well done. You really touched, moved, and inspired me. You've changed my life. And when I started hearing those comments, that just, the desire to help people, to serve people, just began increasing, and I wanted to help more people. I wanted to get out there, and that's why I started up this meetup group and these other things. And now I speak for 12 hours without notes, note free, and I'll go all day. And I'll tell you what, behind the scenes, I'm working like crazy. Behind the scenes, I'm reading over my notes, I'm memorising, I'm using the skills and the tools and techniques that I've learned all throughout my life. And there's 4 main ones that I use. One is a visual stack. That's to order my information. So tonight I use somewhat of a visual stack to lead me through my presentation. I use memory pegs. I use a thing called memory palace. And I also use other techniques like spaced repetition to lock them in firmer and deeper into my mind. Because there's 3 stages of learning. You may not be aware of this, but there's 3 stages of learning. There's cognitive. There's your brain. You learn something in your brain. You learn it in your head. That's level number 1. You've learned something. Okay, we call this knowledge. It's not really, it's information. It's data floating around your head. That's what it is. We call it knowledge, but it's not really. Knowledge is about application, not information. Second stage of learning. You've now gone cognitive, you've got it in your brain, now you've got to get into your heart. Now you've got to actually get emotion behind it and say, do I actually want to do this? Do I want to change my life in some way? And so it moves from the head, progresses to the heart. And the heart means you're engaged. You've got emotion behind it and you're doing it. And then the third level is your body. You see, the largest part of your unconscious mind is the meat suit or the body. We're going to realise that. This is your unconscious mind. So when you do something over and over again with your hands, with your legs, with your feet, with your body, and you do it over and over through repetition, that's when you know it. That's when you know it, and you don't just know it cognitively, you don't just know it with your heart, you know it with every cell and every part of you. It becomes who you are, it becomes your new character. So that's the level of learning that I was going for. And those of you who are after mastery, that's how you do it. You're not going to get mastery by coming along to a few meetups. You're not going to get mastery by listening to a few YouTube channels and a bit of positive thinking. That's not going to change your life. What's going to change your life is getting it from your head to your heart to your hands. Then your life changes. That's how it works. Is that good to know?
Yeah.
Interesting? Okay, this is going to help you. All right, so first of all, what we're going to do tonight is we're talking about being funnier. And my son and I have used the Memory Palace to remember a joke set. And we're going to demonstrate that for you now. And, in fact, before I do this, who would like to help me with a demonstration, I wonder?
Okay.
Ah, come on up. How you going, Joseph? Good to see you here tonight. Who do you think would win out of Godzilla and King Kong?
Either. My mum doesn't let her pets fight.
Oh. So your mum's that good, is she?
Yep.
You think you've got a pretty good mum?
Yep.
Well, who are you to judge? Do you think your mum's better than my mum?
Yeah.
Well, who are you to judge?
Because once my mum went to court and the judge pleaded guilty.
Whoa. Well, every time my mum walks into the courtroom, the judge stands up.
Guess how many push-ups my mum can do?
Well, how many?
All of them.
Whoa. Well, my mum doesn't do any push-ups. She does earth push-downs.
My mum had a fight with Superman, and the loser had to put the underpants on the outside.
Whoa. Well, my mum had a fight with the Hulk, and the loser had to paint themselves green.
Once my mum was bitten by a snake, and after 3 days of agonizing and gruesome pain, the snake finally dies.
Well, my mum once got pulled over by the police, and the policeman walked away with a warning.
Did that happen to you once? My mum can put out a fire with gasoline.
Whoa. Well, my mum can start a fire by rubbing 2 ice cubes together.
My mum can make a pancake so thin it only has one side.
Whoa. Well, my mum's so fast she can race around the world and smack herself in her own backside.
My mum created the giraffe species by uppercutting a horse.
Well, my mum can slam a revolving door.
Guess what aliens believe in?
What?
My mum.
Well, the boogeyman checks under his bed for my mum.
My mum really died 1 year ago, but Dad was too scared to tell her.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. My mum can win a game of Connect 4 in 3 moves.
My mum starred in every Star Wars movie as the Force.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, my mum counted to infinity twice.
Well, my mum counted to infinity 4 times. And she's still counting.
All right. Okay. My mum can remember the future.
When my mum forgets something, it ceases to exist.
Well, my mum got so angry one time, she threw a hand grenade and it killed 50 people, and then it exploded.
Well, my mum can hold a chair in the air with one arm while sitting on it.
He's got me. All right, well done, well done. Okay. Good job. How was that, guys? It's pretty good for 11-year-old boy, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Pretty good. Okay, so what we used there to do that was a thing called the memory palace. It's a technique that we did. So Joseph and I were sitting in the car, and how did we do it, Joseph? You going to come up and explain to people how we did it? Come up and explain. So this part, we could keep going as well. There's about another 10 that we know.
Yeah.
But he decided to stop with that one. We worked out that that was the last one. Okay, so how did we do it?
We found an object
Yeah.
and we put a joke on it.
So we found an object and we put a joke on it. Now, how do you put a joke on an object?
I put a joke on you.
You put a joke on me.
Yeah. I have about 15 jokes on you.
Yeah, okay. So did you hear that? We thought about an object and we put a joke on it. So what I did was I pointed to the speaker in our car and we said, when we think of the speaker in the car, let's think about the judge. And he got a joke about the judge and I got a joke about the judge. And then we went to another part in the car, which was we've got a little TV. And we pointed to that and we said, what joke can we put there? And he said, well, I'll do Superman. And I said, well, I'll do Hulk. And then there was another joke, was the push-up one. And we did the push-up one. So what we did was we started going through the car and selecting objects with which to put the joke on. And then in order to rattle off all those jokes, all we needed to do was go back through the objects. And if you remember the objects, you remember the joke. See how that works? That's what's called a memory palace. Excellent, Joseph, thank you. Take a seat.
Thanks.
So has everyone seen that before or heard of memory palace? Who's heard of that? You've never heard of the memory palace?
Pegging. Peg. Is it peg? Memory peg?
Memory pegs. So pegs is another memory technique. We can use pegs, and I use pegs. I use memory palace for my jokes. That's how I do jokes. If I'm going to tell a joke at a seminar, I'll use memory palace or a series of jokes, and that's how we go. Okay, so that's how it works. But let's look at this memory palace. So there's 3 parts to memory. Or actually, I should start back at the beginning. There's four things that your mind does. And the way that we work this out is with a little acronym called MAPS. And I did write this in the meetup if you read that. So the M is for memory. It's the first function of your brain to remember things. So everything that you see, touch, hear, smell, everything that comes in via the 5 senses, which is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, and also the auditory-digital, which is also your self-talk. So anything that comes in via these senses and your auditory-digital, things that you make up in your head or things that you have conversations with yourself about, that little voice in your head, is stored in our memory. It's stored somewhere. Now people say, well, I forget things. Well, no, you didn't. It's in there. You didn't forget it. It's just not readily accessible. And that's all it is. So everything is in there. The other thing is we don't take in everything consciously, but we do take in everything unconsciously. So when they do techniques such as regression, they can actually take a person into hypnosis and they can take them to a childhood memory and they can have them pause and count how many leaves are on a tree that they walk past. They can have them pause and read the license plate of a car that they were walking past. They didn't even take in consciously. But your unconscious mind is taking in all this information. Now the reason that we don't consciously take it in is to protect us. Because your brain would go into meltdown. It would just shut down because there's so much information. Scientists estimate that 2 million pieces of information are coming at us, through the 5 senses every second. There's that much information. There's the wind, the breeze, there's all the lights and colours, everything around. It's all coming in. But we're only aware of a very small amount. And that's to protect us. So memory is the first function of the mind. Sorry, is there a question?
I was just saying, I never knew that.
Yeah, so what you're doing, there's actually, you're only aware of about 7 to 9 chunks of information. That's all we're consciously aware of. And where focus goes, energy flows. And so we're only aware of what we focus on or what we train our brain to look for. So if you think about it this way, let's imagine that you're sitting in front of a computer, you're on the internet, and you type in the word wealth. What comes up on the screen? Well, everything to do with wealth. Money, making money, buying houses, buying cars, buying nice things. Okay, everything to do with wealth and spending probably comes up. All right, even saving money. If you write in poverty on that exact same computer, what comes up on the screen? Well, everything to do with poverty. So what happens is the computer sorts for and finds those things which you're focused on. Now in our life, we're focused on things. And these things come up consciously and unconsciously. And so if you find the same things keep coming up in your life, it's because whether consciously or unconsciously, you're focused on them. And where focus goes, energy flows. And so if you find that your life is, I know it's tough, why does this always happen to me? Why am I always having people hurt me or do something? Or why is this going on? What are you focused on? What are you attracting into your life? And this is where that law of attraction comes into it, is that if you choose to focus somewhere else, you can change that. Yeah.
Is that related to your subconscious paradigm as well?
Absolutely. There are two sets of thoughts that we have. The thoughts you know about and the thoughts you don't know about. And it's not necessarily the thoughts you know about that mess up your life. It's the thoughts you didn't know about. The thoughts that are happening unconsciously. Okay, they're the ones that often cause us problems. Now, the stuff that I do works with not only the conscious mind, but also the unconscious. And we want to create change in both. So memory is the first one. The second one is attention. It's another thing that our brain does. It holds our attention, helps us to focus, like I said before, and lock into something. And we can only focus on a very small amount of things. And so I've got to be careful for what we're looking for and sorting for in life. I used to work at a service station, and when I was driving around, I always used to see the prices of every single service station I went past. Because I was always comparing. So on the way to work, my boss would ask me, what prices were they? So that we could adjust our prices accordingly. Okay, and that became a habit, and it was many years after stopping that job, going into another, that I stopped doing that. Because I was looking for it and sorting for it. And I ended up doing it unconsciously. Because there's 4 levels of competence. I'll put this over here. So the 4 levels of competence we have, number 1, we have unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence. That's the first level of competence. I spoke to a woman today on the bus about this actually. She was on her way into the city to clean. And she's been cleaning for 21 years at the Marriott Hotel. 21 years doing the same job. And she loves it. She's absolutely good. And I said, do you have to think about it anymore? She says, I can think about anything I want to think about. And I just go through the motions. She knows her job so well, she doesn't have to think about it. But before she did that job, before she started that job, she would have been at some point in her life unconsciously incompetent. She had no idea how to clean. She had no idea what the best way to clean was, or even the reason why she would have needed to clean. At some point though, she would have gone to the second step, which is conscious incompetence. That's when she began to realise and recognise, wait a minute, if you don't clean, if you don't look after your house, if you don't clean your bed occasionally, you're going to get sick. Because the bed bugs and whatever else is going to build up, there's toxins in the house that will build up around me. I've got to make sure I clean it and I'm in a nice clean environment. Okay, so at some point she would have cleaned the dishes, cleaned this, cleaned that, to make sure that bacteria is staying out of the